I'll find out what she's doing. Are you all set, Kathy? Come on out.
Somebody got to
Yeah, I think they're done.
Yes, Dave's going to do that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Connolly. I'm the editor of the Buffalo News. On behalf of the News and WNED, WBFO, welcome to Buffalo. And welcome to the 2014 New York gubernatorial debate. Special welcome to the candidates. Don't they look great? Time for the next hour you get to make any noise. Here to give you the ground rules for the studio is Dave Broderman from WNED.
Hey, thank you, Mike. And actually, there's one slight we actually get to applaud twice, so we'll talk about that in just a minute. But thank you very much. We are thrilled to be hosting this event tonight. I will let you know it's statewide across New York on public television and public radio. It's also going to be on C-SPAN later this month, so we're thrilled to bring this important event to our entire state this evening. Of course, with the debate, we always have to have some rules, and of course, we do have some audience rules. We ask you to turn off all cell phones, pagers, if anybody has pagers. Any electronic device, please turn those off. We also ask that you do not take any photographs unless you're part of the media in the back. We can't afford to have flashes go off or those distractions, so we ask that the audience not take any photographs during the event. We ask in terms of refraining from applause or any type of response during the debate. If you do, we take that very seriously. We want to keep the focus on the candidates, focus on the issues, and we will be escorted out of the studio. We have security here tonight. We will practice applause at the beginning and the end, but that's it. I also want to let you know, in terms of exits, there's the doors you came in the event of emergency. We'd open the curtain. There's also an exit door back there should we need to leave the building for any reason. One audio note. The audio here in the studio is not necessarily what's being broadcast, so that may be adjusted, but it's not indicative of what's going over the air. At the end of the debate, I want to let you know we're going to be doing interviews around the stage here with the campaigns. So we ask you as the audience, when the debate is over, to please get up and exit the studio. The media will be coming forward for the interviews, but we'll keep this space just for the media interviews. I did want to practice applause one more time. I'll introduce Tammy Coleman. She'll be the person that cues it at the beginning and the end, and we'll do just a quick practice here to sort of get an audio level to see what we're doing. So let's cue for applause at the beginning. very much. I will be underway in a minute with Mr. Brian Meyer. Thank you, everybody.
We never get to applaud that way.
1 minute to air. Seconds. Air. 5.
From Buffalo, New York, it's Election 14, The Race for Governor, sponsored by the Buffalo News and WNED WBFO. This debate features candidates Rob Astorino, Andrew Cuomo, Howie Hawkins, and Michael McDermott.
Support for Election 14, The Race for Governor, comes from Verizon.
With Verizon's technology and networks, we provide answers and communication solutions that will help create a better tomorrow for our communities. We are proud to support this broadcast of the 2014 gubernatorial debate.
Now from the WNED WBFO studios, here's debate moderator, WBFO News Director, Brian Meyer.
Thank you, and welcome to all of you watching and listening across New York State. Over the next hour, we'll learn more about 4 candidates for governor who are seeking your vote on Election Day. Let's meet the candidates. Republican Rob Astorino is serving his 2nd term as Westchester County Executive. He's also running on the Conservative and Stop Common Core lines. Democrat Andrew Cuomo became governor in 2011. He's also running on the Independents, Working Families, and Women's Equality lines. Green Party candidate Howie Hawkins ran for governor on the same line in 2010. He's a Syracuse resident and a longtime activist. Libertarian Party candidate Michael McDermott is a former real estate broker and developer. He ran for Congress in 2012. Gentlemen, welcome. The candidates will be taking questions from our panelists, whom we'll meet in a moment. They will also answer video questions submitted from voters. Now, here are the rules for tonight's debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement. Questions from our panelists will alternate, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. A bell will ring when the time is expired. Follow-up questions will be limited given time constraints. If a panelist has a follow-up, each candidate will have 30 seconds to answer. Video questions submitted by voters will be directed to all candidates, who will each have 30 seconds to respond. At the end of the question and answer period, each candidate will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. During the debate, candidates are not permitted to use any prepared notes, visual aids, or props. We ask the candidates to stay on topic and not interrupt one another. Time limits will be enforced. The League of Women Voters of Buffalo Niagara will serve as timekeepers. The order of speakers was determined by a random draw. Mr. Cuomo, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you. And first, let me begin by thanking tonight's sponsors and the panelists. It's my pleasure to be back in Buffalo once again. Applause to all those people in Buffalo who have done such a great job in turning the city around. The Buffalo Bills are here to stay, and they're winning, so I say go Bills and go Buffalo. It's been my honor to serve as governor of the state of New York for the past 4 years. And I think when you remember where we were and you look at where we are now, there's no doubt but that the state is better off and better in general. When we started 4 years ago, the government wasn't even working. We now have the lowest taxes in over 50 years. We have more jobs than we've ever had before, and we have Democrats and Republicans working together again. And the state is better because it's stronger, it's safer, and it's more progressive. One of the options in this campaign is an ultra-conservative philosophy that disrespects blacks, women, minorities, and immigrants, and I reject that, and I believe we have more work to do, but the arrows are pointed in the right direction, and let's keep working together as one New York.
Mr. Hawkins, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Thank you. I've been an organizer in movements for peace, justice, labor, and environment since the 1960s. I attended Dartmouth College and served in the Marine Corps. I've had working class jobs on construction sites and on loading docks. I've started successful small businesses, including a workers' co-op that built solar, wind, and energy efficiency upgrades for homes and businesses. I'm running for governor to go to work for the 99% of us, the working class and middle class people who are overtaxed, underserved, and underpaid under a government that's been bought by the richest 1% with their big campaign contributions. I'm calling for a Green New Deal for New York. It would guarantee everybody the right to a useful job, a living wage, affordable health care, affordable housing, and a good education. And the centerpiece of the Green New Deal is to fight climate change by banning fracking and moving to 100% clean energy over the next 15 years. Real solutions can't wait. It's time for real change.
Mr. Astorino, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Thank you very much. I'm running for governor because New York is losing, and we're losing badly. We have the highest taxes in America, the worst business climate, we have the worst economic outlook. Our economic recovery is an anemic 0.7%. We've got cities that are losing. Poverty here in Buffalo is off the charts, especially with children. And we can't afford another 4 more years and another 400,000 people leaving this state under this gentleman's term. I'm running because we need to cut taxes in a real way. The Wall Street Journal said that tax cut will make us the most competitive in the Northeast, and it'll get this economy moving again so people can go back to work. We also need term limits. One way we need term limits is to clean up the corruption of the Andrew Cuomo administration. We also need to get rid of Cuomo's Common Core and replace it with better standards produced right here in New York by our own teachers. And we also need to get rid of the Unsafe Act. So I'm running because right now the privileged and the well-connected, they're doing very well under Andrew Cuomo's term. But the rest of us, not so much. That's who I'm representing.
Mr. McDermott, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Michael McDermott. I'm the Libertarian candidate for governor. And I want to thank everybody that sponsored this debate. I especially want to give a special thanks to Governor Cuomo for insisting that I be here. Not for him, I probably would not be here. Thank you, Governor. I tell you that I'm here to ask you to listen closely to what is said at this debate. Don't listen as Democrats or Republicans. Just listen as fellow New Yorkers. Because we've got to get to a point where we can empower New Yorkers to take their lives back, to vote carefully and listen carefully. Please, listen to everything that's said. And the libertarian philosophy that we espouse is one of individual liberty and individual freedom and strong adherence to the Constitution. And that's what we're here to do. So thank you very much, and I look forward to the debate.
The first question comes from Bob McCarthy, political reporter for the Buffalo News, and it's for Mr. McDermott.
Good evening, Mr. McDermott. Let's get right to it with a question on economic development. The two major candidates have outlined far different approaches to fostering economic development in New York. Mr. Cuomo has established targeted programs like the Buffalo Billion and Startup New York, in which he claims successes, while Mr. Astorino proposes that lower taxes and a less stringent regulatory climate will result in even more success. What's your take on that? And we'll look forward to what the other candidates have to say on that, too.
Mr. McDermott, you have 1 minute to respond.
I think that's a really very good question. I've had some experience with Startup New York, and I'm not in favor of it. I think the idea of bringing companies in and having a 10-year tax rebate sounds good to me. But I've tried with some companies that I've worked with, and it's very difficult to deal with. It doesn't include a lot that it needs to include. So I'm not a big fan of it, although I've seen a lot of commercials lately. I think they spent $200 million on commercials, and you know, it sounds good, but it's not really working that well. I like the economic development idea, but I think that we should do this as people of the state of New York, not as the government and the state representatives that are telling you what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and then not fulfilling those promises.
Mr. Astorino, 1 minute.
Well, let's be honest. Here's what's happening in New York right now. We basically have massive corporate welfare. $21 billion in tax credits to big corporations and billionaires. That's what's happening right now. And here's the scheme, because Andrew Cuomo benefits from this tremendously. It's how he's built his $45 million war chest, which he uses to attack me in negative and false advertising all over TV. So the governor gives out tax credits and a wink and a nod, and in return, he gets very big checks from corporations and billionaires for his big war chest. That's how it works. That's not economic development. That's bad economic policy. What we need in this state are not gimmicks. We don't need gimmicks. We need actually reducing taxes to make us the most competitive in the Northeast. That's what we'll do. We know what the problems are. The problems are in Albany right now. We've got overregulation, massive taxes, driving our middle class, our small businesses, and our big corporations out of this state. And the people are following those jobs for better states. We got to put that to an end and change the actual climate in the state. Then we'll do well.
Mr. Cuomo, you have 1 minute.
Rhetoric is fine, facts are better. Our taxes, the taxes for the middle class in the state, are the lowest they've been since 1953. Corporate taxes are back to the level of 1968. We just won an award where, from a business point of view, we've gone from number 25 to number 4. From a conservative organization that studies taxes. So we've brought down taxes, and that has brought up jobs. 511,000 new jobs. This state has more jobs than it has ever had in the history of the state of New York. And in terms of credibility of my friend Mr. Astorino when it comes to taxes, when he ran for Westchester County Executive, he promised a 20% tax cut. He guaranteed there would never be a downgrade, and he promised they would not be the highest in taxes. You know what you got after 5 years? They are the #1 tax county in the United States of America. Property taxes went up 8%, and the county was downgraded.
Mr. Hawkins, you have 1 minute.
Trickle-down corporate welfare doesn't trickle down to working people and small businesses. What we need is a bottom-up, full employment, wage-led economic development policy that raises demand, and that gives real incentive to business to invest and hire. And I think the best way we can do that is to commit to 100% clean energy over the next 15 years. We have a peer-reviewed study from researchers at Cornell and Stanford say if we do that, we'll create 4.5 million jobs, good middle-income jobs in construction and manufacturing, and it would cut electric rates in half. And that's how we improve the business climate. Don't give tax cuts after the profits are made and cut their profits. Cut the cost of doing business. Cut electric rates in half. Take health care off the business budget by having a single-payer system for the state. And lower the property taxes by restoring the progressive taxes we had in the 1970s and the revenue sharing we had then. Local governments who get 8 times the amount they're getting now, they could lower their property taxes and still pay for their schools and services. So I think that's the way we get the economy moving in the right direction.
Our next question comes from Karen DeWitt of New York State Public Radio, and it's for Mr. Astorino.
Mr. Astorino, my question is on hydrofracking. What will happen with fracking in the next 4 years if you're elected? And there's an ongoing health study. Would you continue it in a publicly transparent manner?
Mr. Astorino, 60 seconds.
Yep, I won't be politically paralyzed like this governor is. 35 states have natural gas, 34 are safely drilling, and their economies are booming. Let's look at what's going on in Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Dakota. We can do that here in New York. President Obama supports it. The EPA has said it's safe. So too does the Energy Department and the Interior Department. Senator Schumer and Gillibrand support it, as do many others.
No, my position is my own. I'm running for governor. My position is I want to make sure it's safe.
What is the most libertarian position that you'll let
Individual liberty, individual freedom, and strict.
Which is specifically
You can do what you want with your own body as long as you don't interfere with somebody else's rights.
That seems like a Democrat position on abortion.
I'm not speaking as a Democrat. I'm speaking as a libertarian. As a libertarian, I believe strongly that you have a right. I guess about 3 years. I was a Republican for most of my life. I would just vote Republican about the Republican. 3 or 4 years ago, when I started really paying attention during the debates with Ron Paul and other libertarians, I felt that the libertarian viewpoint, I could really wrap my head around because it was making sense.
So you were a registered Republican for your entire life, and then you became a libertarian very recently?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago.
And you also believe that businesses should be able to have more freedoms? Tell me about that.
Business should have more freedoms?
Yeah.
I think people should have more freedoms.
You think businesses should have more freedoms?
Yeah, businesses should have more freedom. The regulations are stifling.
So tell me about that.
Regulations that come out every year just further and further make businesses go away. Regulations by the government, where the government decides what you can and can't do, is just not acceptable to me. There are certain guidelines to protect the whole, but it's gotten too much between blue and red. Blue and red, that's not, they are the problem. I think Ronald Reagan said, government isn't the solution, government is the problem. And I believe that that's the case. I think businesses, I was at a meeting in Rochester last week, and I asked how many people here would like to start your own business. And a lot of people raised their hand. And when I said, what's stopping you? They need too much money, the regulations, all the different forms and permits and things to get started.
What about environmental regulations on these businesses?
Well, you have to talk about specific things. I mean, some regulations I do agree with. That's where I'm concerned about with fracking, that it could damage our groundwater. I'm not willing. I mean, as a Republican, all you hear about is they want dirty water and dirty air. And I don't feel that way. I feel that we have to make sure that our environment is safe. You know, there's how many times do you see businesses where there's chemical dumping into the rivers? And I mean, of course, we can't have things like that.
And you talked about how you are very pro-Second Amendment. Tell me about your issues about New York State's SAFE Act.
I'm thoroughly opposed to the SAFE Act.
Tell me
It's
about that.
unconstitutional. We have a right to bear arms. It's a Second Amendment right. If we don't have the right to bear arms, what do we have? The government is the only one that have guns? I mean, what are they trying to do? Keep the bad guys from having guns so that the bad guys can say, oh, I'm not going to get a gun because it's illegal?
What about New York City?
New York City is a completely different animal, there are a lot of people all into one small area. They're not too concerned about having guns, but they should have a right to have one should they want one.
So you're saying that people in New York City, should they want to have a concealed carry permit, should be able to have one if they're law-abiding citizens, just like over in Chicago that they recently just passed?
Well, I have a concealed weapons permit from Arizona, and not only do you have to be a law-abiding person without any felonies in your past, but you also have to show proficiency in a weapon and learn what to do in the event of a crime or of a personal attack. So yes, I think they should. Yes, I absolutely think they should. Listen, all the bad guys have guns. Don't you think that law-abiding citizens should be able to protect themselves?
Over in New York City specifically as well, all over the state, correct?
All over the state, yes. All over the country. All over the country. I think that we have a right to defend ourselves.
So then someone, say, who has a CCP over in Arizona should be able to have it as a reciprocal situation over in New York City?
I believe strongly in reciprocity between the states, yes. However, you have laws here. I mean, if you're not allowed to carry a weapon openly in New York City, and then people from Arizona come, like me, I would not wear a gun. I would respect the laws and the people of the state of New York. But should we have reciprocity? Absolutely.
All over the United States, correct?
All over the United States. We do in most states. New York is an anomaly in a lot of different ways. That's one of them.
Thank you very much, sir.
May I ask you one question?
Sure.
How will you get rid of Common Core?
You mean in terms of the technical things, legal things?
Yeah, I mean,
my policy is let the local school districts decide. If they like Common Core standards and want to orient curriculum to it, great. But it's not appropriate for everybody. I think the teachers are the experts, and they should be making the recommendations about curriculum with the consultation with parents and local school boards. And what we have now is a test and punish regime, which punishes the most disadvantaged schools and turns them over to the charter industry, which, behind all the statements they make is about making money. That's what it's become. It's not what it started out, but that's what it's become. So, and if people want, tests, let them write their own tests. I don't even agree with Astorino that we need a new set of standards and state-developed tests, because that's just Common Core in a new wrapper. It's high-stakes testing and a centralized system.
So you're for full local control?
Yeah.
The local school board.
And in the regions and, the Common Core people, you can use those as reference. They should be inspirational, not mandatory, I guess is one way to put it. And, these state education department Common Core curriculum modules, in the lower income districts and middle income districts, they have to take them because they don't have the money to develop their own curriculum oriented to Common Core. And they're test prep factory stuff. And the teachers really resent it. In fact, it's pushing a lot of teachers out of the schools. So, I don't think that's constructive. It's not good for our education.
One more. What's your feelings on the U.S. Department of Education? Because I don't think that we would even have Common Core if the U.S. Department of Education wasn't there. So what are your feelings on that?
This is corporate education reform, and the corporate interests like the Broad Foundation, the Walton Foundation, the Gates Foundation, they would find a way if they didn't have the Department of Education. I think the Department of Education should do research that everybody can use, and they should provide funding that is basically you have a progressive, centralized federal income tax, and then it should be allocated to local school districts or states and then local school districts on a per capita basis with some adjustment for need. And that's what the federal education department should be doing. It should not be dictating curriculum and testing to local school districts.
Time Warner Cable?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, what did you make of the debate tonight? Did you feel like you got a fair shot to get your voice in?
Well, sure. It was, we all were under the same circumstances, so I got a fair shot. I wish I had taken the minute on the 4-year term question to talk about our constructive program for racial justice. We want a civil rights department at cabinet level in the state to really enforce the fair housing and other anti-discrimination laws, a new public housing program that will begin to bring us back together by building new projects that are humanly scaled, mixed income in the cities and the suburbs. And then we got a whole lot of reforms in the criminal justice sector will do, because that's very unfair, particularly toward ethnic minorities.
You said, how many times have you run for governor?
This is my second time.
This is your second time? You said third-party candidate polling higher than ever before. Is that what you said in your...
If we get 9% right, that would be a record in New York history for a third-party progressive running statewide.
What you didn't say is what you think that means. What do you think it means that you're polling as high as you are right now?
I think the issues that we're talking about are resonating with voters. And I think Andrew Cuomo was alienated, particularly the school issue. A lot of parents and teachers, public employees, both local and state, has been, had these austerity budgets that have led to massive reductions, pay freezes, a sixth tier for the pension system, so they're angry with them. The people that want to end fracking and go to clean energy, they've had 4 years. Cuomo is going to ban fracking, and they've done it by now. So I think all those people are coming our way.
Do you believe you have an honest chance of winning this year?
Well, I got him right where I want him. Cuomo seems to have hit a ceiling of around 30%. Astorino's hit a ceiling of around 30%. Cuomo's falling, and I'm growing. So it's just a matter of time. We may not have enough time, but we're growing, and that's good.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The swarm begins.
Governor, you were more aggressive directly engaging Mr. Astorino than I've seen you over the course of this campaign. Can you talk about why you chose to take that tack in this debate?
I'll tell you why. We're only having one debate, and these are very important issues, and issues that I'm passionate about. Westchester County, the only county in the United States being sued for discrimination, and it's been going on for years. And they were fined $20 million, and it's in the state of New York. And to me, that's a disgrace. New York Times had a line something like, it's an ultra-white county that has been discriminating for decades. Can I finish for a second? Being against a woman's right to choose is a very serious issue. Being against marriage equality is a very serious issue. Being against the DREAM Act for immigrants is a very serious issue. And these are stark night and day differences. It has nothing to do with the people of Westchester. The people of Westchester are good people, and they're welcoming people. The lawsuit is against him, not the people of Westchester. It's against him. The U.S. attorney said that he has given numerous false and misleading statements. And the U.S. attorney said he must offer 7 hours of videotaped conversation under oath because they think he's committing perjury. It's him. It's not about the people of Westchester. They're not bigots. They have no problem with diversity and welcoming people. It's him and it's my people. It's not the people. I've been working in Westchester for many, many years. I built affordable housing in Westchester. It's not Westchester people. It's him. And these discrimination of women's right to choose marriage equality, the DREAM Act for immigrants, these are real issues and real differences between me and him that need to be articulated.
He kept asking about the Moreland Commission. He said, have you been subpoenaed? Have your administration been subpoenaed? Have they?
I've said 100 times to you guys, we've been cooperating with the U.S. Attorney in whatever he wants, and if you have questions about the investigation, talk to him.
Why won't you do another debate? Why just this one debate?
I did offer two. He turned it down.
Will you do another one then if he's...
I offered two. He turned it down. You have to ask him.
Shame on you, Andrew Cuomo. Accusing Rob Astorino of discrimination is unforgivable. You obviously don't know what racism is, so don't disrespect those of us who do. Rob Astorino opposes that scheme you backed to hand local zoning decisions over to Washington. That crazy plan would lower our home values, raise our taxes, and overcrowd our schools. That's why the most respected community leaders oppose it too. Mr. Cuomo, your use of the race card disgusts me.